Okay. So what we'd like to do this afternoon is we'd like to introduce you to Pencil Code as a wonderful tool to bridge that gap between text-based coding, using Scratch, Kodu, things that we're probably all quite familiar with, to text-based programming. And it's a nice transition before you go on to something like Python. It is free. We love free things. And it's an open source tool. It's been around for quite a few years. We've been using it for about 2 years with Key Stage 2 and Key Stage 3. It uses a variation on JavaScript called CoffeeScript, and it doesn't just do music. There are actually several different elements to it. You can use it to create art in a similar way to Logo and Scratch when you can draw patterns, to create your own games, but most importantly for us today, to create music. Okay. The web address, because it is web-based, is pencilcode.net, and when we get there you have these three options. You have Draw, you have Jam, you have Imagine. We're focusing on Jam today, and within Pencil Code Jam, even if you're a complete novice to it and you're not a musical person at all, you can actually get up and running straight away because it has these little tutorials. There's a number of pages to take you through, and along the bottom of the page you also have a glossary. We were introduced to this via Sonic Pi. We liked Sonic Pi, but we did find on our network it was a little bit problematic and it worked best on Raspberry Pis, whereas this works really well on iPads, tablets, laptops, desktops, and it just seems a little bit more robust, which is why we decided to use it. You don't have the multiple musical options that you do get with Sonic Pi. You are limited to a piano. But to be honest, if you're as limited in music as we are, that's fine. That's absolutely great. Your finished work you can embed into web pages, and your projects can be really easily shared. Everything you make has a unique URL that you can share with others. Okay. Within Pencil Code, you do have this little toggle, and it allows you at the click of a button to switch between text mode and blocks mode. So it may be that when you first start using it with your students, you might want to start in blocks, something they're more familiar with, but we don't. We tend to just go straight in with text, and the children pick it up really very quickly. Okay. In terms of notation, all of the notes that you can play are written in the standard ABC notation. So for example, a capital letter C would represent a middle C. We're also sharing these documents with you that have the treble clef and so on. And you'll notice where the notes are lower in pitch, they have a capital letter. And when they are higher in pitch, they are a lowercase letter. This is one of the fundamentals of coding within Pencil Code. You'll notice also that it is included in quotation marks. It works like a standard string within Java, Python, etc. Amanda, would you just like to play me a C? Would you like to play a middle C just so everybody can hear what that sounds like? Fingers crossed.
Okay, here goes.
There we go. So all Amanda's done there is just type play and C, but that C is in those quotation marks. Okay. Could you just do that with a lowercase c for me, Amanda, please?
Indeed.
There we go. So just by changing the case of that letter, you get them an octave apart. So for example, the C major scale could be written as capital.
Are you going to get me to do this one as well?
Absolutely. Capital okay. C to B and then a lowercase c. So at the moment, all Amanda has is the word play, and in the middle of her screen, she has an arrow that will play her piece of code.
And I can't tell you how excited I was when this actually worked. Brilliant.
Marvellous. Thank you for that. This would be where we would introduce a little bit of trial and error with the children. We would get them to see what happens with lowercase, uppercase, and then we start to talk about how long the notes last. So, for example, all of the notes that Amanda's just played lasted for 1 beat. As you start to explore a little, we find that you can have notes that last for 2 beats. So for example, C with a number 2, 3 beats, C with a number 3, and so on. And to get those fractions of a note, so for example, a half note or a quarter note, it's a / followed by the number, okay? So you can actually make that link with the children to fractions as well. If it's a half a note, it's over 2. So C over 2 would be half a note. Amanda, could you just do a little selection of notes for me, please?
I apologise, I have no idea what this is going to sound like. It's still a scale, but it's got lots of long notes and short notes. Okay, here we go. Quite like the bit at the end, the little twinkle
like
bit.
that little flourish at the end.
I'm going
Hopefully everybody can hear the flourish. And that is essentially how you would change the length of a note. At the bottom of that slide there, you'll see that a rest is represented by a Z. So we usually tell the children they're going to take a snooze and catch some Zs. So if Amanda put a rest in there, if she just put a Z, it would be a rest for 1 beat. If she put Z2, it would be a rest for 2 beats, and so on. So Amanda, could you just pop a rest in for me, please?
Okie dokie, here we go. See what I've taken a few notes out as well. I'm getting a bit carried away now.
Fantastic. Okay.
A little rest in the middle.
So once you've explained this to the children, they can start to make their own little compositions. And if you've got anybody musical in your class, which you often do, they'll start asking the questions about, well, that's all well and good, but how does it play? How do I know what it's going to play? So what we can do using pencil code is we can actually put in a virtual piano. At the moment, we're just using the play command, which sounds out those tones. But if we use this little bit of code, P equals new piano, and you'll notice there the case is important. We've got a lowercase p, a space, equals, space, new, and that's in a different colour. That's bringing up a new variable, and they're programmed in. And the name of the variable is piano, and it has a capital P. If you put a capital P at the beginning and a lowercase for the word piano, the computer will very kindly give you a little error message such as this: oops, the computer got confused, piano is not defined, which is really helpful for the children to see where they've gone wrong. Because if you just type it in, you think, I've got exactly what you've got on the board, it doesn't play. It gives them a great way of debugging their code, looking back at how things have gone a little bit awry, and it always gives you this little handy hint, okay?
It's really good for debugging because they're familiar with the literacy side of it, so they can tell whether they've got a capital letter or lowercase, whether they've missed a space or whether they've got a full stop in the wrong place. So it really is quite powerful in that respect.
So your virtual piano will actually come up with a little piano, and it has got a little turtle in the middle. There is an option to put in a line of code to turn off the turtle, but we tend not to bother doing that because the kids quite like the turtle. So if you wanted to play your tune on a virtual piano, you would have your P equals new piano as your top line, and then every other line you must have that P dot before play. That means play that virtual piano, and your notes must be in those quotations. If it's not in the quotations, it'll be an incomplete string, and the code will highlight red, and you'll get a little cross at the side, and you'll also get a little pop-up error message saying that there's an unexpected letter. In other words, it's not a string. It doesn't know how to read that, which again is really useful, because if you've got a long list of letters and numbers, some children just can't see what the problem is. And they can be looking at it and saying, well, why is it not working? And if you're doing that in sort of standard text-based programming, it's sometimes a little bit hard to work out where your syntax error is. But in here, it gives you the little handy message to show you, which is great. Okay. As you get a little bit more advanced, you might decide to move on from the C major scale, and you might want to start introducing some of the black notes. And there's a couple of little keys that we can use here just to change things up a little bit. So for example, to play the note C sharp, Amanda, could you just pop in a normal C for me, and then we'll do a C sharp next to it, please.
Okay.
You use this little arrow, which if you take a look at your keyboard, you will see it's on key number 6, and it's a pointy arrow. Sharps are pointy. So if we want to do C sharp, it's the little pointy arrow followed by the C. Okay. And in the similar way, for flats, it's an underscore. So it's underscore and B to play a B flat.
Oh, I'm not up to the B yet. Hang on.
That's all right.
I just managed to crack the C. I did a classic error of putting the little pointy hat after the letter instead of before. So carry on, chat away. I'm now
order is important.
Order,
So
very important.
So you've got that little pointy arrow for your sharps, you've got an underscore for your Bs. To be honest, finding those for the children in itself can be quite challenging because they're all used to using iPads and phones, so they can't find an underscore for love nor money. So have you got a couple of sharps and a couple of flats there for me, Amanda?
Hold your horses. Honestly, I have to work with this all the time. Patience, woman, patience. Hey, I'm not Victoria Wood, you know.
Oh, lovely. That sounds like you're just in your piano keyboard. Fabulous.
Yeah, I'll shoo the cat out.
And once you start exploring a little bit more, you might be sort of thinking, well, what happens once I've gone past the lowercase? How do I get the really high notes at the far end of the keyboard? I've only got little arms, so I can't reach that far. But to get an octave higher, you use an apostrophe. And to get an octave lower, you use a comma. Okay, so again, fantastic. We're using things that the kids are used to using, except most of them seem to forget what an apostrophe is. So that in itself is a good learning. And if you have children in the class who are quite musically literate, we're not, and they think, well, I want to play chords. I want to play chords. How do I do that? You can play chords as well. This is where you start getting into your more standard text-based coding, and we introduce a square bracket. Text-based coding loves a square bracket. So if you wanted to play a chord, for example, D, B, and G, you would put those together and you would separate them with a comma. Now that won't shift it up an octave because it's contained within those square brackets. If a comma is used out of the square brackets, you'll get a higher pitched note. If it's within the square brackets, it will separate those 3 notes. Amanda, could you just do me a chord with D, B, and G, please?
I'm trying. I am got an unfamiliar keyboard, so I'm desperately looking for the little square brackets. Here we go. Oops, the computer got confused. It says G is not defined. I've forgotten to put my feet marks in, haven't I? Now, if I had my little helper sitting next to me, they would have spotted that. Here we go. Here's another chord. There you go. There's a chord.
So that's how you would play.
Very pretty. I don't like the colours.
Now, if you're a pianist and you think, well, chords are great, but I possibly need 2 keyboards. I need a left hand and I need a right hand. You'll notice there in the example at the bottom, we've got A dot and we've got B dot. We've actually added 2 pianos. We've added piano A and piano B. So piano A can play one melody, for example, the chords, while piano B is playing the rest of the music. So if you are a little more musically inclined than we are and you want to have 2 keyboards, by all means, that is an option. Okay. If you are feeling a little bit more adventurous, you could make some activities for the children whereby you make some notes and then they have to debug them. So for example, there we've got Twinkle Twinkle, but it may be that there are a couple of notes that are capitals instead of lowercase, or need to be a C2 or a C/2. So you could give the children some code for them to debug. And if you use that P equals new piano, you've got the visual way of them seeing the colours. which helps them spot if there's an octave apart because it jumps up the keyboard. And you've also got the sound. So it's a really lovely way of supporting them in their coding as they're moving forward, because they've got the visual element, they've got the auditory element, and it's not just reading that code in front of them. Okay. Now, once you've got up and running, and you want to save your work, you can do that. You can actually make work on pencil code without logging in, which we often do with children. We're in what used to be a city learning centre, so we have children coming to us from approximately 50 primary schools. So we don't have logins for all of those children. We have them working. If they want to save, they have the option of creating an account. Now, it also leads you into an IT safety lesson, because it will not allow you to register an account using correct names, using your first name and your last name, okay? And it will create a mini website within pencil code. For example, my account is pipchip75. So at the end of the pencil code address, I will have pipchip75, and that is a unique URL to my username. You can't use pencil code as a messaging system, so it's safe in those regards. And there isn't any way they can contact you through your account name. So if you create an account, you don't get spammed, you don't get loads of information. I have never received anything from pencil code, and we've been using it for about 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Okay.
I popped a link in the presentation there for how to create one, and there's a little document there that takes you through exactly how to do that. Okay. Now, this is an example of my. Oh, I see.
Do we have a
Will's
question?
waving at me. He has
a question. That means either hurry up or there's a question.
Oh no, you're doing perfect on time. The question is quite a good question actually. It's how does the Pencil Code website know if your name is real or not?
It basically won't allow you to have sort of a full name, like, you know, if I put Philippa Chippendale, it wouldn't let me. It would say names are not permitted.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Fair enough.
So obviously you could put Fred Bloggs, because people often just make up an alias for themselves, but it probably wouldn't let you do that either. It took me quite a few incarnations of my name to get to one it would let me have. So much so that by the time I finally logged in, I'd actually forgotten my password. And I can't actually log in as me, but Amanda can, because she saved it on her computer. So yeah, it's
a great idea. I like that it sort of tries to encourage that. I think the Scratch website does something similar, doesn't it, where it encourages you to have nicknames. The person who asked actually has just dropped in, but they feel like their name doesn't look real. So I think they're going to check to see whether the website can oik it out or not.
Well, there you go. There's a job for this afternoon, everyone. Just have a bit. See if you can outfox pencil code. See if you can get your name through their little algorithm.
Right, I'll leave you to it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I've just popped a screenshot in there of what it looks like once it's saved. It's showing the name of my file, it's showing my folder, and it's showing my username. So if I just take a look within, you should notice at the top, hopefully you can see it is a little bit small. Instead of it saying pencilcode.net, it now says pipchip75.pencilcode.net, which means that I am in a directory of my saved files. Now, I'm not going to play them from my computer because we did have a little technical hitch with sound when I did that.
We broke the internet yesterday when we tried to do it. We're not going to do that.
But Amanda also has the same options as me. So Amanda, could you just go to Hedwig? If I display it on the screen.
Yeah, in the great immortal words of Blue Peter. Here we go. Here's one I learned to play earlier. I hope you can hear that over the top of my annoying telephone.
I was going to say we seem to have harmonies going on in Amanda's house.
Yeah, no, it was my phone.
My house phone. just to show you, A, what it looks like once you started to create a piece, and B, so you've got an idea of the options you get within pencil code. Now, down at the left-hand side, I can click to go back to blocks. And I'm sure you're familiar with things such as Scratch, and you'll recognize you've got the colored blocks and they're all there. It's exactly the same commands. It's just wrapped into a nice little multicolored jacket. Okay. And you can toggle between those at any time to go back to the text or back to the blocks. You do have the option of saving your program once you've created a username. You can do a screenshot, which is great if you want the children to be documenting where things have gone wrong, for example, making changes, debugging. You can share the link and it will just send the link to this work. Now, people can go in and they can play it, but what it will not let you do is it will not let you save over their work. So I am sharing, I am trusting you all, I am sharing my folder with you because I know that you can't save over the top of it. You can create new projects once you're in here, and there's also links to an online guide and to ask a question. So if you get a little bit stuck, there's also the option to ask a question there, which is really handy. It's really useful. Okay.
Somebody's asked a question in the question panel there as to why the piano keyboard didn't come up when we played the music.
Because I didn't play it, Amanda did. Yeah, if I play it, the sound goes to pot. So yeah, there isn't actually anything wrong with my code, but Amanda pressed play at her end so that you could hear the sound coming through on her device rather than on my device.
Actually, I can do it again and hold the screen up. You see the bizarre way we've got set up here, so we don't break the whole of Google this afternoon or whatever. So I'll play it again.
Oh, she's gone happy.
Oh, got a bit carried away there, didn't I? Here's Hedwig again.
Left a bit. There we go. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that answers the question. So if I went back to my PipChip75 folder, all of the files that I save are in there. I can go back, I can revisit them. Amanda went off into happy there. I hasten to add, I have not coded these. The ones that are a bit more advanced and with two hands, we have tweaked from the examples that are there. I just want to show the entertainer as an example of two pianos. Can you click on the entertainer link, Amanda?
Bear with. What page is the entertainer on?
It's in PipChip75 and it says entertainer 2.
Entertainer 2, is this the one I messed up?
It might be, so it might not sound great. It's just to show people how we can get the two pianos.
I'll play it again. It's a bit grating. Nobody's fixed it for me. I've tried to get it debugged.
Okay, so that's just to show you how you could have your two pianos playing there as well. Okay, so within our presentation, we've got a few links there. We've got Hedwig's theme, Somewhere Over the Rainbow. These are examples of ones we've done a lot with Year 6 and Year 5, because quite often the children have been studying Harry Potter, or in the example of Somewhere Over the Rainbow, one of our primaries was doing The Wizard of Oz as their summer show. So we actually tailored the lesson to fit in with a topic that they were covering. We've done sessions at Halloween, and we've had the Addams Family theme. We did a session when on the same day we were studying Egypt and we were doing green screen filming. So as our second activity, we coded the Bangles Walk Like an Egyptian using pencil code. So you can completely tailor it to whatever topics you're doing. Okay, and one of the things we found really popular is that teachers who don't get coding understand pencil code. We get quite a few people who come to us because they expect us to do the coding and they think it's a one-tick situation. They come along, they get the kids to do it, and they're like, no, I don't understand coding, I can't do it. But with this, they get it, they can understand it. And we end up with the teachers sitting at the back of the room going, just a minute, I haven't done my flat, I need to do my sharp. And they actually get really into it, even if they don't do coding, especially if they're musical, because it's their language and it makes sense. And it's no longer a foreign language to them, because really learning music is just like learning a different language. So it's really popular with year 6 teachers. We've done it a lot with year 7s and 8s as well. And we've done it with some a group of children from an autistic unit who absolutely loved it. They couldn't get enough of playing the same songs over and over again. It was really, really popular. Okay. In terms of resources, what we've got is we've got a link to a Google Drive folder, which will take you to all of these examples that we've shown. There'll be links in there to that. There's also some links to handouts and resources that you can use in the classroom. So if you just bear with me, I'll take you through those. So can everybody still see that okay? Yeah. So if I go into document, we've got some screenshots that you could use to set activities. We've got posters that you could display in your classroom. These were all things that really helped us because we weren't terribly musical. I'd basically done GCSE music at school and hadn't touched it ever since.
I got asked to leave the choir for miming, so there you go. There's my skill set.
I was only in the band and the choir because I got in early for lunch and I didn't have to do wet play times. We've got PowerPoints there to talk you through it. There's the document to help you set up an account. There's a little booklet there of Christmas coding, because Christmas is a brilliant time to do this. Sorry to mention the C word. I know it's, you know, only June, but loads of Christmas carols are written in C major and have very simple rhythms with lots of repetition. So it's a fantastic way to get the kids to get a tune, also that they understand and they recognise, because you'd be surprised how many children don't recognise the music that we like. Obviously, we're getting too old. Speaking of the music, what we've also done, now don't tell anybody, keep this one to yourself.
Big secret.
We're playing a bit fast and loose with copyright here, guys, okay? What we've done is we have accessed a website called musicnotes.com. And the great thing about musicnotes.com is that they can give you sheet music which has the letters written on, because if your children can't read music, that's another thing that you would possibly have to teach them. Whereas if you use these ones, so I'm just going to open up the bare necessities and you'll all be humming that all afternoon. You're welcome. You'll see that it's got the notes written in letters. I appreciate that is a little bit small. I shall zoom in. Is that better?
That's
Can we see
lovely.
that now? Yeah?
Yeah.
So you've got rests there, you've got crotchets, you've got quavers. So there's some very simple rhythms for the children to get to grips with, but also they don't have to worry about where on the stave those notes are positioned. And also you don't if you're not very musical. So we really embraced musicnotes.com. You can pay for their sheet music if you so wish, but we just wanted to borrow a little bit. So what we did, we searched for beginner's notes, and beginner's notes just means that it puts those letters in there for you. And these update all the time. There's some that are in there that I have no idea who they are. They're obviously very, very trendy. The children like them. I have no idea. But Hedwig just jumped out at us because we were working on Harry Potter. So if I take you to Hedwig's, it will give you a page. It also gives you the option of printing that sample. So I figure if we've saved a picture of it to Google Drive, that's no different to printing a sample. And you can also play it, so you get a little preview of what the music should sound like. We print these out for the children, give them a pencil, and they write the code on the music before they even start putting it into the computer. They try and decode that piece of music into pencil code language. And there's loads in there. One thing to be careful with though, if you do hit that play button, you will get a big banner that goes right the way across your sheet music to stop you printing it out. But we've figured that one out. You just don't hit play. You just don't hit play, and you use your snipping tool and you do a nice little picture of it. So we've actually collated some of those for you, and we've put them in the folder. And there was a theme at one point, but we got a little bit carried away. So there's all sorts in there. There's a bit of Star Wars, a bit of Harry Potter.
I just say it's the royal way. Somebody got carried away.
Yeah, I do that.
I wouldn't have. I'm afraid I'm at the level of, is this one hard or not?
And then one day we had a class of children that had a lot of musicians in who really wanted to do something a bit more. So I had to create a folder called Advanced. And we've got stuff in there that uses two hands. It uses chords and well, the Avengers theme. My son requested the Avengers theme. And yeah, I have yet to master that one. So there's your homework. That's your challenge. See if you can code the Avengers theme tune. Okay. And I think I'm going to stop there and take any questions. I'll present the page with the QR code. So if you've got your phone handy and you just want to zap it, that should take you to our Google Drive. It is an ever-changing folder. So you may find that things are coming and going and being reorganized and what have you. But you can take and borrow and copy in there whatever you like. Okay, does anyone have any questions?
I've got a couple of questions, if that's okay. I'll just pass them on now. These are actually from me.
Oh, excellent. Okay. Has everyone else gone? They've all just nodded off.
We've got a few questions in the chat. We've answered most of them already. One of them was, how do we access resources? And you've shared that QR code with us. I will just quickly mention that a video of this presentation will be shared on the CAS website in the near future once we've sort of edited and refined it. So we'll be able to access it there. For anyone who doesn't have a QR code reader, Philippa or Amanda, I don't know if you'd be able to drop the link into the chat at all, if you've got it to hand.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. I shall do
that. Anyone who's not too used to QR codes.
Still sharing your screen.
One of the questions I was going to ask, what's the youngest age group you've used this with?
Year 3.
Yeah.
Was it year 3? Yeah, I think it was year 3.
Yeah. They can play the music, putting in capital letters and lowercase letters. They can play the music, actually giving them the written notation, etc. is a bit tricky, obviously.
Just before I put that link in, I'll just go back and I'll show you the tutorial within.
The tutorials are really good. So once you're into the jam, on the left-hand side, it gives you some little walkthroughs and tells you what to code, and they are getting progressively harder as you move down the page. So you start with very simple, I'm going to say 1 or 2 or 3 notes for the want of knowing the musical term for any of that. Easy tunes into slightly harder tunes, into really harder tunes with lots of hands and rhythms and things. So the tutorial.
I've broken my internet, so I can't show you that. It's not loading for some reason. I'm hoping the man outside hasn't cut through my cable. But yeah, the tutorials literally start off with a play a note, play 2 notes. So if you can read a letter C in the word play, you can do it. To be quite honest, it's really quite straightforward.
Brilliant.
And to be honest, it's quite good fun just letting them put any keys they like. So, you know, W's and Z's, and type their name and realise that actually in music, there isn't a Z key or there isn't a W note. So they soon realise that it's just A, B, C, D, E, F and G.
I'm just copying the link.
Fantastic resource. I'm going to pass all the details of it on to our music coordinator, and I think we'll definitely bring this in next year to try and get some more music IT links going. The Pencil Code website itself, you talked earlier on about account creation. It's good to hear that it's one of those sites where you don't have to have an account, because that's always really useful. When it comes to creating accounts, is there a way, is it quite easy to bulk create accounts? Is there sort of a spreadsheet upload option?
No, there isn't. It's actually quite limited in that regard, which, to be honest, is why we don't get the children to sign in when they come to us, because we quite often have 60 children doing it at the same time. And it would mean we'd have to manually create 60 accounts for every school that came in. So we tend to just use it with the children without sort of signing in. And then if they want to sign up, they do it themselves within the class, because you don't actually need to put an email address in or anything. You literally just create a username and a password, which is why I struggle to get in, because I can't get them to reset my
password. Can't remember it.
And Amanda can't either. Just click remember password.
So
now we're working at home, it's on the computer at work.
Yeah, it really is. It's very simple. We've had year sixes saying, oh, can we just do it now before we go back to school? We're like, oh yeah, okay, just take 5 minutes, and they do. And quite often they just do it as soon as they get home. It does work really well on tablets and things, with it just being browser based. It's surprisingly effective. We do find that Chrome works the best. It's not a big fan of Safari. It doesn't play, and it really doesn't like Edge, but it's fine on Firefox and it's fine on Chrome.